So today I will present a Visual Studio Code extension for Lambda functions written in Swift. This presentation will be divided mainly into two parts. The first one is where I talk about myself and my experience, and the second will be the demo of the extension. Don't worry, I will not talk a lot about myself. Um, just a little. So, who am I? My name is Marwane Koutar. I'm from Belgium. I'm a last year student at HOGent, and I made this Visual Studio Code extension in the context of my internship at AWS with Sebastian Stormark as my mentor. So the scope of the project. The main goal was to facilitate the build, test, and deploy process of a Swift Lambda function. And to do that, we needed two main components, which is a template repository. We made that so that it's modular. We can easily create a template there, and then it will be used for the VS Code extension. Currently, we have four templates, but we can add them. People can contribute to it also. And then we have the Visual Studio Code extension, which uses these templates to initialize your project and then builds it, tests it, and deploys it to AWS. So the importance of this project was to simplify the development of a AWS Lambda function written in Swift, which is not natively supported by AWS. This means that when you go on AWS Lambda and you create one, there are some languages that are supported by default, like Java, JavaScript, or .NET, but not Swift. Swift requires some extra steps, which I will talk about later. So the services I used, of course, AWS Lambda, which is the deployment target for the end users. And for the programming languages and tools, I mainly used TypeScript to build the extension. I also used Apple Swift runtime for AWS Lambda, AWS SAM, and AWS CLI. AWS SAM is infrastructure as a service where you can define your resources and then deploy it to AWS. Docker and Make, which was required for the extra steps to build the Swift Lambda function. And for the UI, I used Vite React. So how does it work? As I said before, you have three layers. You have the templates repository, the Visual Studio Code extension, and then the last one, which is AWS Lambda. So the Visual Studio Code extension uses the templates repo, then it will test it, deploy it to AWS Lambda. So currently, there are four templates available. Each template has its own visual representation of its architecture, along with some more documentation. We have API to Lambda, SQS to Lambda, S3 to Lambda, Scheduler to Lambda. For example, API to Lambda integrates a API gateway to a Lambda function. So basically, you can trigger your Lambda function with a URL, and S3 to Lambda is a Lambda function that triggers for every CRUD operation that happens on a S3 bucket. So let me give you guys a short demo about the extension. So to start the extension, you go on Visual Studio Code some Visual Studio Code, of course, and you open up the command palette. To do that, you do Command Shift E, and you search for AWS Lambda Swift. Open AWS Lambda Swift dashboard. You have a configuration panel, also the steps panel. These are the steps required to build, to initialize, to test, so you can local invoke it, remote invoke it, and deploy the project. And here you have a output of the commands that will be run by the extension. So first, let me mention something. If you go on the top right to check prerequisites, you can see that the extension requires three external tools, which are Docker, AWS CLI, and AWS SAM CLI. Okay, so let's start by initializing a project. To do that, you have to define the name of the project and choose a region. We will deploy to EU West 3. And here you can choose your template. As I said before, you have 4 templates, and each template has its visual representation along with its documentation. So let's initialize a API to Lambda function, a Lambda project, sorry. As you can see, it's initialized. I will also start the build process and give you guys some explanation during the build process. So let's go through the source code. As you can see, it's a very, very simple Lambda function. It just returns a status code 200 and a body that says hello from AWS. Now, a normal developer would add some more business logic to it. Also, we have a makefile. So this is the extra steps I mentioned. So we use a Swift plugin PM command to build the, the project. So this will run a container that runs on Amazon Linux 2, which is the OS used by AWS Lambda. It will compile the code there and give us some artifacts back, which is a zip file with the binaries used to run the Lambda function. So now let's go back to the extension, and hopefully it finished. It didn't. It's a quite long step. But also every project comes with a README that gives extra information. As you can see, these are the comments that the extension runs. So this means that you can also run these comments apart from the extension. So let's go to the next step, which is local invoking it. You can choose your function, your event. Right now we are using a standard API gateway event. If you go to the events folder, and then in event.json, this is the event that will be sent. You can either edit it or add another event. So let's invoke it. And hopefully it works. And here we get the status code 200 with the body hello from AWS. This means that it works. So I will already start the next step, which is deploying the project. You have to define a stack name and then just deploy it. So this now will upload the artifacts, create the resources using AWS SAM. Also, this is a file that AWS SAM uses. So in this file, you have to define the resources you want to be deployed. As you can see here, we define a Lambda function that integrates a API gateway. And also, we can mention that we want to build it using Makefile, which is what I showed to you guys earlier. Another thing I want to mention is that this template doesn't have authentication, which is not good if you want to use it in a real use case. But for the sake of the demo, it's okay. So now we just wait for it to finish deploying. As you can see, it's creating all the resources. And hopefully it will give us a URL of the API gateway. So it's finished. If we scroll to the right, we can see that we have the URL. And if we paste it on Google, we can see that it works. We get hello from AWS. So we can also remote invoke the Lambda function. Like before, you have to specify which function, which event, and the stack name. As you can see, it works. So this is basically the extension, there is one more step, which is deleting the stack. So with this step, you can delete every resource that you just made. As you can see, it's deleting it. So this is basically it. This extension is available for everyone. If you go to the extension tab in Visual Studio Code and write Swift Lambda, the first result should be the extension. And also for people that are interested in contributing to it, here is the source code along with the templates repo, which is just here. So let's go back to the presentation. So now I will give you guys a quick reflection about my internship. So for me, it was a valuable and educational experience where I could apply my theoretical knowledge. I also developed new skills, including improved communication abilities. I was talking every day with Sebastian Stormark, which is my mentor. He gave me some tips, helped me when I was blocked, and this really helped me improving my skills. Also, I gained clarity on my career path and problem-solving skills, and I'm very grateful for the guidance from Sebastian Stormark.